Good morning. I hereby call to order this 7th meeting of the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission for the year 2017, and I ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we get started with our agenda for today, I do want to acknowledge some special guests that we have here with us. We have many of our daughters and sons that are here with members of our staff for the Bring Your Daughter and Son Day to Work, Bring Your Daughter and Son to Work Day. I know we have a full schedule for them. If the youth could just stand up so we could recognize them. Thank you for being here, and I know that some of you are coming around to our offices, so I can't wait to have more interaction with you. Moving on to our first matter for this morning's agenda is the approval of the minutes for the meeting of March 16, 2017, and I will recognize Commissioner Coleman, who is the editor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I've reviewed the minutes of our March 16, 2017 public meeting, and I move that they be approved as submitted.
There's a motion by Commissioner Coleman to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Place. Any discussion? Edits? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0. Moving on to our agenda, we'll call up our Director of the Office of Special Assistance, Cheryl Walker-Davis, to lead us through today's agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I'll simplify this a little bit for our guests. On behalf of your various offices and bureaus here at the Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission, we've prepared recommendations to assist you in deciding cases. Those recommendations appear in the agenda that has been made available for the audience. The Commission, of course, considers all of the issues in all of the cases in making their dispositions in deciding the cases. With that having been said, we will start with our first bureau, the Bureau of Audits. And on behalf of that bureau, we recommend that the Commission adopt the 2 recommendations appearing on page 1 to release audit reports pertaining to certain generation supply charges of the PPL Electric Utilities Corporation.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
On page 2 of the public meeting agenda, with regard to the matter presented on behalf of the Commission's Office of Competitive Market Oversight, it is recommended that the Commission adopt that office's recommendation to adopt an order seeking additional comments in its investigation of different processes or procedures through which a customer can switch from a natural gas company to a competitive natural gas supplier.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Sweet. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Turning now to page 3 of the public meeting agenda, matters on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance. With regard to the first item, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the Bureau's recommendation in the proceeding involving the complaint of Core Communications versus Verizon Pennsylvania LLC and Verizon North LLC, noting your statement, Madam Chairman.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
I heard a so moved on the right and a so moved on the left.
We'll defer to the left.
That'll be the only time.
Now, we have children here. So. Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Commissioner Powson. Thank you very much. Under discussion, I do have a statement that I would like to offer for the record. While I supported our earlier disposition of this case, reconsideration should be granted under Dewick because the record and the petition set forth subsequent developments that appear to have been overlooked or not addressed by the commission. This reconsideration challenges the commission's decision, which I supported, to impose specific compensation obligations and detailed compliance mandates upon the parties. Specifically, the commission required Core Communications, Inc. to pay Verizon special access rates for access toll connecting groups, trunking obtained from Verizon PA. Since then, however, the record indicates that Verizon's approach will be to seek compensation from Core for ATCs at total element long-run incremental cost rates, or TELRIC rates. This departure from the access rates established for these entrance facilities in the earlier order is a welcome development. While today's order denying reconsideration notes this commendable solution, I would have preferred to grant reconsideration for the purpose of expressly stating that Verizon's agreement to accept TELRIC rates moots Core's objection to access rates for Verizon's ATC trunks. An express statement is more likely to preclude more litigation in this complex and long-standing dispute, but I will be voting yes on this matter. Any other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I will be concurring in result only.
Okay. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0, noting that Vice Chairman Place is concurring in result only.
Should be noted that the last item appearing on page 3 at the bottom, that being the complaint proceeding of Susan Kreider versus Pico Energy Company, has been postponed until the Commission's public meeting of May the 4th. Continuing now with matters on page 4 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the Office of Special Assistance recommendation in the proceeding appearing at the top of the page involving the informal complaint of the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus Lewis E. Adler.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coleman, second by Commissioner Powson. Any discussion?
Madam Chair, if I might, just
Commissioner
very briefly, I'm going to vote no on this sort of as a protest vote. There's just got to be a more streamlined way of handling these kinds of matters. To be in a position that we're going to have a civil penalty of $50 and on an assessment balance of $26 just gives me pause. And it really doesn't deal with the merits of this exact case. I just want to continue to indicate that we need to streamline some of our procedures so that we're not spending a lot more ratepayer money chasing down some of these various holes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweet. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
The motion passes 4-1, noting the dissent of Commissioner Sweet.
It should be noted that the next item, that being the complaint of George Mandeville versus PPL Electric Utilities Corporation, has been postponed for consideration on a public meeting of May the 4th. Turning now to matters on page 5 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff recommendation in the first item, that pertaining to the informal investigation of the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus Great American Power LLC, noting the statement of Commissioner Sweet.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Powson. Under discussion, I would recognize Commissioner Sweet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before joining my staff as legal counsel, Regina Matz was working in the Office of Special Assistance and worked on this case. Please note she has not advised me on this matter.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman and Commissioners, we will consider the next two items together, that being the petitions of UGI Penn Natural Gas, Inc., as well as UGI Central Penn Gas, Inc., seeking a waiver so as to increase the distribution system improvement charge cap. With regard to this matter, there is the motion of Commissioner Powelson, which applies to both cases, as well, Madam Chairman, as your separate statements pertaining to each case.
Is there a motion to call up these two matters for consideration?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion by Vice Chairman Place, second by Commissioner Coleman. Under discussion, I will recognize Commissioner Powelson for his motion.
Thank you, Chairman. Before the commission here this morning are the exceptions to the recommended decision of Administrative Law Judge Angela Jones in the above captioned proceeding, which involves the petition of UGI Central Penn Gas and UGI Penn Natural Gas for a waiver of the DISC cap from 5% to 10%. To date, the commission has only had two other opportunities to consider whether the DISC should be raised above the 5% cap for gas distribution companies. In the Columbia order, we denied the increase of the DISC cap above 5%. On the other hand, in the PGW order, we granted an increase of 7.5%. Today's case is not entirely analogous to either of these previous DISC waiver petitions. There are clear differences between these companies at issues in terms of the justification for the requested waiver, as well as the company's rate-making methodologies, capital formation structure, and status of plant in service, just to mention a few. However, when applying the statutory standard to the facts before us here this morning, I agree that UGI has made a compelling argument that these two companies should be granted a waiver of the DISC cap to permit an increase in recovery of 7.5% for both entities. I would additionally highlight several reasons to support this incremental 2.5% increase in DISC recovery and suggest a safeguard. First, UGI has met the standard required by the statute. The Public Utility Code provides that, quote, the Commission may, upon petition, grant a waiver of the 5% limit under this paragraph for a utility in order to ensure and maintain adequate, efficient, safe, reliable, and reasonable service. In UGI's case, the predetermined focus of the spending increase in its modified LTIP is installing or upgrading regulator stations and higher pressure pipelines to increase system pressure. According to UGI, these projects will improve system reliability in many areas of UGI's distribution system, including projects in the Harrisburg Camp Hill region and the Millersville Lancaster region. Problems with low pressure qualify as reliability issues within the meaning of the statute, and are safety concerns as well. Although UGI did not commit to increasing its pipeline replacement schedule in this filing, DISC recovery should not be strictly limited to pipeline replacement. And I just want to note, I keep referring back to the dreaded moments of the 2014 polar vortex, where we had these issues of UGI pressure issues in and around the Camp Hill area. In fact, we had, I think, at one point close to 8,000 customers interrupted in the time frame of January 6th and 7th of calendar year 2014. The reason I know that is some of our former Oversight Committee staffers were affected by that particular incident. So I remember as chairman taking those phone calls because of the pressure issues. So it's a real world example of how this issue is being addressed here this morning. UGI also has raised its capital spending at the same time it requested an increase in the DISC. UGI filed a modified LTIP petition on February 29, calendar year 2016, which increased the amount that UGI intends to spend on infrastructure during the budget year of 2016-2018, and it represents a 24%, in the time period by 24% for both UGI and PNG, and 54% for UGI CPG, to well above the 20% level, which is considered a major modification and requires a filing with the Commission. The Commission adopted the modified LTIP to become effective July 1st, 2016. 1 month later, on March 31st, 2016, petitioners filed a waiver to increase their DISC from 5% to 10%. The effective date that UGI requested, July 1st, 2016, was the same as the requested effective date for UGI's modified LTIPs. Thus, UGI's increase in infrastructure spending was all part of the petition here this morning to waive the DISC cap. For these reasons, I support waiving the disc cap to permit UGI to increase its disc recovery from 5% to 7.5%. However, the 7.5% is not a permanent rate change. Determining the appropriate disc rate, and in particular whether the waiver permitting a 7.5% recovery will continue, should be an issue when UGI files its new LTIP at the end of 2018. Therefore, I move here this morning that we approve the waiver and grant a 7.5% disc rate until UGI's next LTIP filing, absent a statutory reason to reduce or suspend the disc. Second, UGI and the parties address UGI's post-2018 disc level at the time of the next LTIP filings. And then finally, that the Office of Special Assistant prepare an opinion in order consistent with this motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Powelson. You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Commissioner Coleman. Under discussion, I do have a statement which I will submit both of them in their entirety for the record and just summarize them for you. Let me just say, as evidence from Section 1358A1 under our code, the Commission is empowered with discretion on petitions to waive the 5% disc customer protection cap. The Commission presently reviews each waiver filing on the merits of that specific case. Items which the Commission can evaluate to guide its decisions on such case include, but are not limited to, when the company's existing tariff distribution rates were established, how often the company files base rate cases, the company's utilization of fully projected future test year, the company's utilization of the disc, the company's disc percentage, the company's LTIP, the existing state of the company's infrastructure as it relates to safety and reliability, and the realized benefit to reliability and/or safety resulting from any waiver approval. This Commission has exerted this discretion under its previous disc waiver proceedings. To give an example, we approved a petition filed by Philadelphia Gas Works to increase its cap to 7.5%. In that proceeding, the Commission determined PGW's aging gas distribution infrastructure posed significant safety and reliability issues, and that the pace of PGW's infrastructure replacement was unacceptable. Next, the Commission concluded that PGW's proposal to increase the disc cap to 7.5% was reasonable, as it would permit PGW to achieve an appropriate 44% reduction in the projected timeline to replace its at-risk mains. Conversely, the Commission denied a petition filed by Columbia Gas seeking to increase the 5% customer protection disc cap to 10%. In that proceeding, we concluded that there was no showing that Columbia's infrastructure posed significant safety or reliability issues. As well, the record in that case exhibited neither an acceleration of its pipeline replacement nor any increased reliability resulting from its proposed waiver. The record also indicated that Columbia could not make any commitments to reducing its frequency of rate case filings. Based on these unique facts, the Commission determined that a waiver was not warranted in the Columbia proceeding. The instant proceeding presents important distinctions from both the PGW and the Columbia proceedings. Both UGI companies' most recent distribution rates went into effect over 5 years ago. The company's disc tariffs reached the 5% customer protection cap in the mid-2016. Relating to their existing systems, I&E claims that both companies' infrastructure implicates safety concerns. Specifically, I&E states that UGI PNG has a high number of leaks per mile, and UGI CPG has an increasing amount of steel main risk. Therefore, I&E avers that increasing the disc to 7.5% is in the public interest because it would facilitate the replacement of the company's dangerous mains in a more timely manner. It is important to note that the record does not indicate that the company's existing pipeline replacement program, as established within its LTIP, will be accelerated in any fashion by approving requested waiver. And that's the important part for me. I do not believe that the standard for approval to waive the 5% DISC customer protection cap is the exact same as that for the modification of a LTIP. Such a notion inherently ties the cost of the LTIP to recovery within the DISC with no acknowledgement of the 5% DISC cap customer protection. The requirements of an LTIP and associated commission review process do not include the financing of the utilities expenditures, whether that be from traditional distribution rates, shareholder equity, retained earnings, the DISC, or debt. OSBA avers that Section 1358A does not permit a waiver of the 5% cap if the cap is insufficient to support the utility's planned levels of plant replacement corresponding to the utility's LTIP, and I concur with that position. I submit that the 5% DISC cap was established by the General Assembly in an effort to provide more capital cost recovery between rate cases, thereby assisting in the accelerated replacement of at-risk infrastructure, but not marginalizing the importance of base rate case filings. I am deeply sensitive to the safety concerns claimed by I&E. I take I&E's assessment in this regard as fact. Nonetheless, I must disagree with I&E when it states that approval of a waiver will facilitate the replacement of at-risk infrastructure in a more timely manner. Similar to the record presented in the Columbia proceeding, the record in this proceeding is devoid of any facts detailing how approval of a waiver will facilitate any material benefit as it relates to the company's at-risk pipeline. Review of the case appears to simply indicate that approval of a waiver will only provide for more timely recoveries of expenditures and may possibly decrease the frequency of the rate case filings. Therefore, this case is similar to the Columbia proceeding in that the waiver provides no discernible benefit to safety or reliability, but differs from the Columbia proceeding in that the existing status of the company's infrastructure poses safety concerns. Consequently, I believe that it would be prudent to afford the companies an opportunity to file an amended petition detailing how the waiver of the 5% DISC customer protection cap will be used to further remedy the safety concerns, presented by I&E. So therefore, I will be voting no on the motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none. On the motion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? I will be voting in the negative. The motion passes 4-1, noting my dissent. If there's no objection or any further discussion, if we can take the previous roll call on the final. On the matter as amended by Commissioner Powelson's motion, it passes 4-1, noting my dissent.
Turning now to the last matter on page 6. On behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, it is recommended that the Commission adopt the staff's recommendation in the complaint proceeding involving the investigation and enforcement versus, that is the Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement, versus Safdar Zaman and Hydri Wahid, TA American Cab Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Powelson, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
With regard to matters presented on behalf of the Commission's Bureau of Technical Utility Services, commencing on page 7 of the public meeting agenda, we recommend the adoption of the recommendation involving the first matter pertaining to the petition of Warwick Community Ambulance Association, EMS, noting that there is an oral statement of Commissioner Sweet.
Is there a motion to adopt staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion by, I heard a cough, so I'm sorry. Motion by Vice Chairman Plate, second by Commissioner Powelson. Under discussion, I would recognize Commissioner Sweet.
Thank you. This is another one of those sort of streamlining issues that I just want to draw to people's attention. There is a conflict in regulations. The PUC has a regulation that says you have to be 21 years old to drive an ambulance. And the health department has a regulation that says you only need to be 18. The way we've been dealing with this since I've been on this commission, which is admittedly only a short time, is to approve waivers to our regulation, which to me is an extremely cumbersome way to deal with this. And it requires somebody like the Warwick Ambulance Association to prepare paperwork, submit it, and be involved in a process that can cost them some money. As one of my staff members put it, I hope that they didn't have to have a spaghetti dinner to raise the money to pay someone to prepare the petition. I strongly have urged, and I believe that there is a consensus among the other members of this commission, that we submit a regulatory package as soon as possible to repeal our 21-year-old requirement, make it consistent with the health department's 18-year-old requirement, so that people do not have to repeatedly come before this commission with a petition for a waiver. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweet. Any further discussion?
I would like to associate myself with Commissioner Sweet's elegantly spoken words. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Place. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman, we will now present for the Commission's consideration the remaining items on behalf of the Bureau of Technical Utility Services, those being the recommendations for all of the remaining items on pages 7, 8, 9, through and including the last item appearing on page 10 involving the application of National Energy Cost Services, Inc.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Commissioner Powson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
We turn now to matters presented on behalf of the Commission's Law Bureau, appearing on page 11 of the public meeting agenda, and we recommend that the Commission adopt each of the recommendations appearing in the 3 cases there, through and including the final recommendation in the matter identified as Full Service Network LP.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation? Is there a second?
Second?
Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Commissioner Coleman. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
And with regard to matters presented on behalf of the Commission's Office of Administrative Law Judge, appearing on page 12 of the public meeting agenda, it is recommended that the Commission adopt both ALJ Salapa's recommended decision approving a settlement in the matter identified as the Commission's Bureau of Investigation and Enforcement versus Pico Energy Company, as well as ALJ Dunderdale's recommended decision in the matter identified under Duquesne Light Company.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendations? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Vice Chairman Place. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
With that concluding the presentation of the Commission's regular agenda items, we now turn to the carry-in agenda. It is recommended that the Commission adopt, on behalf of the Office of Special Assistance, the recommendation in the matter involving the petition for reconsideration in the proceeding pertaining to the City of Du Bois Bureau of Water.
Is there a motion to adopt the staff recommendation?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Sweet, second by Commissioner Powson. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Madam Chairman and Commissioner, that does conclude the presentation of agenda items.
Thank you very much. Before we close out, I would like to recognize Commissioner Coleman for some comments.
Well, thank you, Chairman. And in addition to celebrating Bring Your Sons and Daughters to Work, we're also recognizing Safe Digging Month. And I just want to say I'm delighted to see all the faces in the audience and how attentive they were today to the public meeting agenda. So great to have the kids with us today. I also want to thank the governor for his proclamation that's entitled Pennsylvania One Call System Safe Digging Month. And in the proclamation, the governor makes mention and recognizes the Pennsylvania One Call System, which is the back office operation that provides all of the notifications to the One Call program. And I just wanted to read two pieces of the governor's proclamation that I think are appropriate here this morning, in which the governor says, whereas the Pennsylvania One Call system, a utility service information center celebrating over 44 years of continuous service in the Commonwealth, is key to preventing injuries and damage when digging. And whereas this unique and vital service, which began with only 6 utility companies in Western Pennsylvania and the city of Pittsburgh, now serves more than 100,000 excavators and 3,600 critical infrastructure owners. So just to indicate the magnitude of the work that the One Call system does in order to prevent damage to underground utilities. So why is that important to all of us? And for those of you who have been here for the last 6 years, I'm sure you understand why it's important to us. This is the #1 threat to underground utilities in Pennsylvania, and in fact across the nation. More than 6,000 hits every single year to underground facilities. So in my mind, the most important thing that we do as regulators is about safety. And this is the #1 threat to underground utilities. It seems logical that we would try to get at that particular issue. And in fact, we have been working on that for the last 6 years. We have a case this morning that I think also underscores the importance of calling before you dig. There's a case here this morning with Rosemont College in which the third-party contractor did not follow the law, and in fact, 2 people were injured. This is just one indication of cases that we see on a regular basis where there is some interruption of service to cases where individuals are actually killed as a result of not following the law. So this is a pretty serious matter and one that is certainly important to all of us. I want to again thank my colleagues for their patience. This goes back to an assignment that then Chairman Powelson had given to me and asked if I could move this ball forward. And I had the same comment last year. I was optimistic that we would bring this to the finish line and that we had a couple of wonderful champions in the legislature and still do today. Those champions last year, as I mentioned to you, were Senator Lisa Baker, who introduced the One Call bill that would transfer that enforcement responsibility to this commission. We also have Senator Baker that has introduced that bill again this year, and I'm delighted to report that it was voted out of committee earlier this week, and so we believe it's on its way. I also want to recognize Representative Matt Baker, who was very early on a champion of this particular matter, and he has now introduced a bill to do what I have explained to you in moving that responsibility to the commission 3 times. So I wanted to recognize them this morning for their continued effort to bring this to fruition. We're optimistic that this is the year. The One Call bill expired last year and that it was extended for 1 year, and that we're optimistic that this will be done this year and that hopefully next year at this time I'll have some good news to report to all of you. But thank you to my colleagues for their patience, and thank you to all of you for your time. And remember, before you dig, make sure you call the One Call system, make sure everybody is safe. So thank you again this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman, and we'd like to thank you for all your efforts in trying to bring one call under our jurisdiction. So before we gavel out today, we always like to take the opportunity to give one of our visiting youth that are coming here for our Daughter and Sons Day the opportunity to gavel out. And this year we have selected Adrienne Hubert, who is the daughter of Jeremy Hubert in our I&E division. So if you can come around here and help us gavel out today.
While she's approaching the bench, Madam Chair, I just want to make a quick comment that the commission should take judicial notice of the fact that while several adults seemed to nod off during the proceedings, none of the young people did. They all were alert and awake, and appreciate your attention to these sometimes rather obscure matters.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.